she is. Thank you so much for taking time to be here with us today. Hey, I was just looking at one of your videos out there. I haven't told people this, but you have been around for a while doing a lot to help doctors. I mean, I don't know, when was it that you actually retired from being a surgeon and wanted to get into the business of helping doctors like this?
2000 was my formal change date.
2000?
So 2000, it's been 18 years now.
Oh, that's unbelievable. Yeah, well, this video I was watching was like 10 years ago. You were on a whiteboard, drawing, and it was a great message, though. I think we ought to redo that message even. Okay, so I'm going to switch this here to you. I don't know if I can do that without my glasses on or not, but let's see if you get any kind of hint there that you could show some slides to folks. And I'm just going to let you take it off and turn it over to you, Dr. Vicki. I didn't give a very good introduction to you because I didn't plan very well for this, but she is an author, a speaker, speaks all over the country to hundreds and thousands of doctors nationwide. In fact, you've got some things coming up here pretty quick, don't you?
I sure do, Patrick.
All right, I want to turn my camera off here too so we can kind of focus on the data here today. So you just take it away. I'll be here if you need to make any comments or ask any questions. And folks, if you'd like to ask questions to Dr. Vicki during this webinar, just type them into that question box. I'll be monitoring that. And I've got somebody at the office that's monitoring as well. We'll answer any questions for you live today. If it has to do with, the topic, or if it's something off topic, go ahead and type it in. We'll still answer it via the chat box there for you, the question box as well. All right, Dr. Wagner, take it away.
Thanks so much. Well, just by way of introduction, I just want to let you know that I wear a couple of hats. So what I do is I offer sort of a bridge between the world of business and the world of medicine. So to help doctors be more successful, really what I help them do is to think more in a business-minded way. And I also help people that doctors need, like revenue managers and financial advisors. I help them build their business by acquiring more doctor clients. And probably the main message I invite you to take home today is that doctors are wired differently than you are. We've got this golden rule: treat others the way that you want to be treated. But in the world of medicine, that doesn't quite work as well. What you want to do is treat doctors the way that they want to be treated. And for purposes of this conversation, let's divide the world into two kinds of people. There are people like yourself who are really smart business people, always looking for great business investments, and let's call you a suit. Then there are your potential buyers for the ABS services, doctors, and we're going to call them white coats. Now, everyone's a person, and every person wants the same thing. They want to be successful. But here is the core difference. The metrics by which suits and white coats measure success is different. So when you become a licensee, what you're going to do is look at your profitability, and that's how you're going to decide how you're doing. On the other hand, what doctors most care about is service. They want to count how many patients they have treated and what kinds of outcomes those patients got. So you might be really excited about a great year and call Patrick up and say, Patrick, you're not going to believe it, my profits are up 20% this year. But if a doctor went into the doctor's dining room or the surgeon's lounge with the same outcome, my profits are up 20%, this person would be ridiculed out of the doctor's dining room or the OR. We talk about service, and it makes sense that the skills you invest in are the skills that would support your success. So here you are learning about how to talk so doctors will listen. In general, suits invest in sales and marketing skills, whereas doctors invest most of their time in figuring out how to stay current in medical technology. Most doctors have not taken a single course in finance, marketing, or sales, and it shows. So the main way that you see this is that doctors make very, very poor business choices. So there are doctors out there in private practice. They want to be in private practice. They don't want to have a boss. But because of their lack of business training, they're worrying at night. Okay, what am I going to do? You know, my profit is down, my revenue is down. Should I just sell to the hospital and clinic? Should I just close the practice? I just can't figure out any other options. And these might be excellent, excellent doctors. And that's where you could come in. Your services, your knowledge could fill in this gap that doctors need in order to be able to do the things that they love to do, which is to see patients. So when doctors were surveyed and asked, what's the most rewarding aspect of your job? It's the relationships with the patient, making a positive difference. What's the most challenging part of the job? Well, it's the business side of medicine, having so many regulations, having to work more for less money, difficulty getting reimbursed, and worrying about all sorts of things. And the fascinating thing is, if you take a look at this list, ABS licensees are perfectly matched to do all of this stuff. So in other words, the service, the value proposition that ABS offers is exactly what doctors need in order to thrive and in order to be more successful. How can you help them spend more time with patients doing the things that they love?
Dr. Vicki.
Yes.
Let me jump in here and just say this. You know, for some people on the webinar today, if you haven't been looking at our website or researching, doing your due diligence, you might not know exactly what all we're talking about here. But remember, Dr. Vicki has been working with doctors for years, helping doctors and other people who wanted to connect with doctors, you know, to do business together. But a lot of this just comes from her own experience. Dr. Vicki, when you were in practice yourself, you didn't do your own billing then, did you?
Oh, I didn't. When I first started out after my residency, and by the way, my training was 4 years of undergraduate school, a little graduate school, 4 years of medical school, and then 5 years of residency. So when I got out, I originally joined another physician, and he had an office manager. They did their billing in-house. This office manager went on vacation, and the wife thought, oh, this can't be that hard. Why don't I just do it while Elise is off on vacation? And it was an unmitigated disaster.
I'll bet.
And if you think about like the one activity, like if you were going to identify the one thing that really needs to be done in order to have a viable practice, it's sending out the bills, because without sending out bills, you don't have the cash flow to make your payroll, and you worry about stuff, and then you get involved with distracted doctoring. So that one part was an unmitigated disaster. Well, I got an invitation to join a multidisciplinary breast team at a different hospital across town. And so I went out on my own. And the very first choice I made was to outsource my medical billing. I just knew that this was too important to mess up. And personally, I always like to go to the experts. So what did I do? I checked with some buddies of mine and asked, you know, how do you get your billing done? And one of my buddies who I really trusted said, oh, I see this person, they do a great job for me. And practically before I even met this woman, I knew that she was going to be the one to whom I would outsource my billing. And I am forever grateful for that decision that I made very, very early on in my career. You know, as I went through my practice, I came to understood really how limited my business skills were. And, you know, I needed to buy groceries, you know, I needed to pay my payroll. So I got a sense about how important the cash flow was. So this is just absolutely critical.
Yes, thank you for sharing that, because I think a lot of people who are looking into this business may not wrap their brain around the fact that what you said earlier, doctors, they are not business people. I mean, they weren't trained. They didn't have a lot of training in the business arena. And we had a visitor, like I said earlier this morning there at the office. This fellow flew in from out west, California, I believe is where he's from. And his name was Kent. He said, Patrick, he says, I can hardly believe what you're saying to me, that doctors are not good business people. They're very smart, aren't they? And I said, well, yeah, but they're smart in what they were trained in.
Right, they are. And I mean, well, first of all, if you can't talk about profitability, you can't talk about basic business principles, well, you just don't know very much. And then you just kind of fill it in with things that you think might be true that are not true. And the sad reality is that this lack of financial literacy, the lack of business skills, really does manifest. You might hear about rich doctors, but the truth is that while doctors make a very generous salary, a lot of doctors in private practice are struggling. And even if they are generating a reasonable income, about half of them are behind in retirement planning. About 40% of doctors will be burned out this year. So things are changing radically in medicine, and doctors just don't have the skills and tools to keep up.
If only, if only somebody would write a book that would explain that doctors, we're planning to be rich, but they're not, and it's kind of a myth, right? Did I set you up okay with that?
He is just joking, because the book that I wrote last year is called The Myth of the Rich Doctor. I've spoken with hundreds and hundreds of doctors, and this is just what I found, some habits and patterns that I found. And Patrick, how about if we give away a digital copy of this book to everyone who's on this webinar? Maybe you can just upload it as a handout, and they can read it for themselves.
Yes, I will do that. I'll put that over in the handout section. Thank you. I'll be looking for that right now while you're talking.
All right. So you might find some real surprises here. The bottom line is that yes, doctors are smart, they're hardworking, but I can promise you that you know more about how to build wealth and how to run a business than probably 95% of doctors. Doctors need what you have. Promoting doctors' financial health is sophisticated, it's complicated. And, I, as a surgeon, invested in special knowledge and tools in order to be able to treat patients. And you will have some expertise that you can bring to doctors also. So today, doctors are experiencing acute financial pain, and let's talk about some of these. One is the reimbursement and cash flow. Now, it has been an honor and privilege to know Patrick and work with Patrick for a number of years, but he told me something that was really shocking. He said, in general, doctors walk away from about 30% of their revenue by not following up on rejected claims. So insurance companies, they want to make money, and they know that one way of doing it is hanging on to cash longer. So a lot of insurance companies, just as a matter of policy, will reject a certain percentage of insurance claims. Well, in a busy, stressed office, oftentimes following up on these rejected claims goes to the bottom of the to-do list, and nobody does it. And doctors just walk away. They say, oh, well, rejected claim, it's just a tax write-off. I need tax write-offs. Well, what business would be okay walking away from 30% of their revenue?
Yeah, I bet most doctors would rather have that money that is a quote tax write-off in their back pocket. I mean, you can find ways to cut your taxes other ways. It's better to get the money that's due to you from the insurance companies, I would think.
Well, absolutely. It's just plain crazy. I mean, if doctors are burned out and they feel like they need to make more money, and by the way, when doctors are interviewed and they're asked, what would you need to turn around this burnout? They say more money. Well, this is the low-hanging fruit. The way to get more money is not to see more patients. It's to work smarter. It's to get paid for the work that you actually do instead of walking away. And this seems perfectly obvious to us in this conversation, but it is not perfectly obvious to doctors who are entrenched in the stress of all of this. And Patrick, what kinds of experiences do licensees have? Are those doctors surprised when they see how quickly things can get turned around?
Yeah, in fact, we have doctors who basically that's all they've done is as soon as they saw what kind of success they were having from the licensee doing their billing, we've had doctors just start giving referrals without the licensee even asking for referrals because that doctor knew that he had, friends that were doctors that were struggling with their billing as well. And so we get a lot of referrals that way. In fact, most people, they get their first client. That's how they build it. Just like you showed on that whiteboard message that I saw earlier today, Dr. Vicki.
Well, and doctors want to help other doctors. Like in business, I was surprised when I left the world of medicine and entered the world of business with all these non-disclosure agreements. Like if you've got a good idea, you want to protect it, you want to keep it private. In the world of medicine, it's exactly the opposite. If you find something that works, you want to shout it out to the world and share it with all of your buddies. And I think that that might be the single best thing about working with doctors. Doctors genuinely want to help other doctors and they pass along resources. So if you create this culture of introductions, it's a very effective way of building your practice.
Yeah, now, Dr. Vicki, let me just say this too for the listeners today, that a lot of this detail that Dr. Vicki is sharing with you today on how to connect with doctors and how doctors think inside their minds about money and business. All of this is stuff that is proprietary information that we share with our licensees in great depth. I mean, Dr. Vicki has done, I don't know how many webinars over the last 2 or 3 years you've done, but there's dozens that she's done for our licensees, because even after you've gone through our week's training here in Dallas, folks, you continue to learn by attending our webinars or watching the recordings of these webinars that are for our licensees. Now, this one today just happens to be on a special day. This is Thursday, July 5th. We usually do these on Wednesdays, but on Fridays is when we actually do the licensee webinars for our licensees to share information with them. So we go into much more detail, of course, because we've only got, an hour today. But I just thought I'd throw that in, that what you're getting here are some of the little snippets of information that Dr. Vicki shares with our licensees.
And these little things truly can make the difference and help you stand out from the competition. Like I got a call from a wealth manager today who wanted to talk with me about getting more doctor clients. And he just made a little mistake. He referred to me by my first name. He didn't ask permission, but if I were a prospect, he would have lost that sale at hello, because the fact that he called me by my first name tells me that he doesn't understand the way that things work in the world of medicine. I'm sorry. In the world of business, we default to first names. But if you do not call a doctor by their doctor title, you've just lost the sale. So just little things like that, knowing the secret handshakes that ABS licensees get. I mean, these are really critical for success.
Yeah, I mean, one little tip, like what you just shared right there, that most people have not wrapped their brains around, or maybe they don't even realize that is a very important thing not to do, call a doctor by their first name. You wouldn't know that unless you'd heard that today from a doctor. Folks, you're actually hearing from an MD who's been there and done that. And I would just assume that doctors are just looking for a little recognition that they've spent a lot of time and money, getting where they're at.
Well, I'll tell you what it really is, Patrick. It's not even respect as much as, there's this reputation of the rich doctor, right? Everyone wants to work with the rich doctor. So doctors are actually the targets of all sorts of financial predators who want to take advantage of doctors. So how do doctors protect themselves? They want to work with people who are one of them, who belong. So doctors tend to be very tribal, and there is a way that things are done in the culture of medicine. And when you violate these little rules, it's like a little clue to doctors that you're not really one of us. And the speed at which you grow your practice is the speed at which you build trust. And your goal when you want to work with doctors is to get a doctor to say, he's one of us, she's one of us, you can trust this person, and then become known among a group of doctors.
Yeah, I think you hit it right, nail on the head there. It's just not a matter of respect. What it's a matter of is just helping people realize that, hey, doctors are in a different category. They really are. They certainly know a whole lot more than any of us do about our own bodies. And so that's just one of those things. I try to refer to you as Dr. Vicki every time I do, even though that's your first name. You've given me permission to do that, and it kind of positions you correctly when I'm speaking with someone else. With you, I want to introduce you as, here, this is Dr. Vicki Ragner, you know. So,
Right, and we have a close personal and professional relationship, so I wouldn't object if you called me Vicki, but what I also want to do is make sure that people are successful in their business. And this, you know, just something little like this is just so important that I think that's where we started the ritual about you calling me Dr. Vicki.
right.
Okay, what else drives doctors nuts? Electronic medical records. Now, when I went to high school, I never took any typing because I just assumed that, you know, somebody would be doing my typing. I think the foundation of our healthcare system is the doctor-patient relationship, and the electronic medical record is getting in the way. I mean, a lot of times when I go see doctors myself, instead of a doctor looking at me, they're often looking at the computer. It gets in the way. Doctors don't like their electronic medical records in general. A lot of doctors are changing medical records in the hopes that it's better, and it can be hugely expensive to make this change. But this is something that really causes problems for it. All right, another thing that doctors really worry about are payers' audits. So up until Obamacare became law, nobody knew how much an individual doctor was getting paid by Medicare. But with Obamacare, there was sort of a Freedom of Information Act, and suddenly Medicare, for the first time since its inception, let people know how much they're paying individual doctors. And what happened? Well, it became obvious that there were outliers, like a large percent of the Medicare budget was going to a small percentage of doctors. And the assumption is that these doctors were billing fraudulently. And so now there is this witch hunt for doctors who have perpetrated fraud. I will tell you, you know, if you think about getting audited by the IRS, multiply that by about 100, and you will understand the impact of being audited by Medicare or Medicaid or any of the private payers. Doctors are assumed guilty until proven innocent. And anything that doctors can do to make sure that they are not a target of this kind of investigation has great value for doctors. Doctors are just also tired of the administrative burdens. And just as an example, there's a group of pediatricians in New York. In order to get their vaccines, they have to get it from the state. In order to get it, they have to complete 6 different rounds of paperwork. And they decided, you know, we're going to have to hire somebody just to take care of vaccinations. And they decided to sell their practice to the hospital. Doctors do not like administrative burdens. They do not like paperwork. And any time that a doctor can get freed so that they can invest more of their time doing the thing that they love, they're willing to pay for it. Doctors are also very concerned about liability and theft and fraud. As I just mentioned, there are financial predators out there who target doctors. If you take a look at embezzlement, doctors are probably the highest service industry hit by embezzlement. I had a buddy of mine who had this trusted office manager until she discovered that the office manager had embezzled virtually her entire retirement.
Oh my goodness.
I know. I contribute to the Journal of Medical Practice Management. I was just talking to the editor today, and she said in every single issue, they have to have something about theft or fraud or embezzlement because this is such a huge issue. And what's the best protection? It's having checks and balances, right? It's not having the same person collect the cash copays, do the billing, open the mail, and make the deposits, because that's just an invitation for dishonest people to be dishonest. So anytime doctors can institute checks and balances, they know that they put another barrier of safety that will help them keep the money that they've earned.
You know, I would have never thought that fraud on the part of the doctor, for example, that's a big deal, or his staff, they can commit fraud and he doesn't know about it, or she. But that's a big deal. I mean, that's one of the reasons that our licensees have one of the services that we offer is, one called Compliancy Guard and Audit Guard. These are services that the doctors can purchase from our licensees and actually protect themselves from those types of things in case, they do get audited.
Right. By the way, I just want to mention that it's pretty embarrassing to be had, and I'll speak as a doctor. I remember one time I was going from my office to the hospital. I had to go through a parking lot, and one day there was this woman crying. I went over, what's wrong, ma'am? And she told me this story about her child being at Children's Hospital, and she didn't even have gas money. And so I just took out my wallet and I emptied it and felt pretty good about it. And then the next day I was in the doctor's dining room, and one of the doctors said, "Can you believe that woman was back in the parking lot with that same old scam? Who falls for that scam anymore?"
You did?
I did. And I'm just a sucker. So I know that I'm vulnerable. And so having ways to keep my money safe was important to me. Oh, I need to tell you another great story. So when I was with my first partner, I told you that, his office manager went on vacation. So we hired a temp from a temp agency. And we just thought that she was the nicest woman. She would go out into the waiting room and help the little old ladies complete the paperwork. Well, about a month after she left, we got a call from the temp agency. They had discovered that this woman is a convicted felon for Medicare fraud. How and why she actually got on the payroll for the temp agency, I have no idea. But she was probably out there stealing those little old ladies' Social Security numbers.
And y'all didn't even know it, yeah?
We thought she was great.
Yeah, I'm sure that kind of stuff goes on all the time. Now,
Yeah.
folks, I'm looking at the question box here, and we have answered some questions from folks just on a one-on-one basis here by text. But if you type in a question that has to do with doctors, marketing to doctors, or anything that Dr. Vicki has said, we'll call on you and we'll talk about that openly out loud here.
All right. Another big hassle for doctors is attracting and retaining top talent, top staff. And Patrick and I are working on our next book, which is 9 financial mistakes that doctors make that let literally millions of dollars slip through their fingers. And the one thing that is really, really hot these days that doctors have to worry about is not getting sued by patients. It's getting sued by employees. And so they have to have special insurance. But if doctors can outsource their billing, that means that they know that the key function in the office, which is getting the money in through the practice, is going to be taken care of no matter what's going on with their staff. If there's staff turnover, the cash flow is going to remain on when billing is outsourced. And doctors really do appreciate that. And then, of course, there is this problem with burnout. You know, doctors feel like they have to do more and more with less and less. And I don't know if you've ever burned out, that you felt like you're burning the candles at both ends, but it is not a good feeling. Toxic stress leads to bad outcomes. And the interesting thing is that there are very simple and easy things that doctors can do to turn their lives around. And if you meet a doctor who is not yet outsourcing their billing, you can rock their world by just showing them this elegant solution. So doctors have limited experience finding business solutions to business problems. More and more of the problems that they are facing right now are business problems. And they look to the experts to offer solutions. And ABS licensees get the training, the knowledge, the skills to be able to sort of get in there and help doctors get what doctors want, which is to achieve the personal and professional and financial rewards that attracted them to a career in medicine.
You know, you mentioned our book that we're writing right now, the next book that's about to come out. I think we have a picture here somewhere coming up, maybe that you have of the new thriving medical practice. Maybe we can talk a little bit about how we actually use that in, you know, helping the licensees to market to doctors. I mean, this is one of the greatest marketing tools that's ever been invented. Now, I have a picture of that, Dr. Vicki, on my screen here.
Well, why don't you go ahead and take over, Patrick?
Switch here, okay. Let's come back to here. And I think I can show this window right here. Yeah. Okay. So here's a copy of that book, by the way, the new Thriving Medical Practice. And folks, this image here doesn't have the person's name on here as having written the foreword, but you, as a licensee of ABS, actually get books with your name printed right here on the front cover with Dr. Vicki Ragner. So you become partners with her in, you know, using this to market to doctors. I think I have a picture of the way we mark this up when you're in the actual training class is how you see it right here. Let me turn this toolbox off here. There we go. And we also mark inside the book, highlight it. So when you hand it to a doctor, it's not just a book, it's a marked up book that they will take notice of. And believe me, they flip to every one of those, usually while you're standing there, and kind of read these things. Because if a doctor reads these little tips that we've given in here about how to run their business and collect more money, they'll realize that they probably need you to come out and do that free practice analysis that we teach you to do. So anyway, I just wanted to show that. And the next book, as she mentioned, is right here. It's called 9 Ways Physicians in Private Practice Let Money Slip Through Their Fingers, and how you, doctor, can avoid losing literally millions of doctors. So imagine, folks, getting this as a gift. Now, it's a real paperback book that'll be out on Amazon, just like the Thriving book is, and your name will be on the front cover. It'll also be inside the book where the doctor can actually find your contact information. So Dr. Vicki, I'm very excited about this one. This will be in huge demand, won't you? Wouldn't you think? The doctors, I bet all the licensees need to order this book and give it to their current license doctors as well as a gift.
Absolutely. The other thing that I'm constantly amazed about is the power of a book to establish credibility and expertise. You know, there are other people out there who are trying to reach doctors. But how many of them have a book with their name on it? How many are associated with a doctor who have basically a doctor on board? I mean, things like this give you the competitive advantage. And Patrick, the thing I love about working with you is your ongoing dedication to the licensees. I mean, you had a successful business before we met. but you are always committed to thinking about that next thing that's going to make it even easier for licensees to get more doctor clients. I honor that about you. I honor your integrity. And for me,
Well,
in my own practice, finding people of integrity is very, very important.
it is rare, isn't it? And you're right, Dr. Vicky. I'm the same way. When I find another business person that has the moral compass, to just do what's right, that's very rare in today's world. And so I appreciate that about you as well. We've been able to work together, I think, because we respect the fact that we are both very committed business people, but at the same time, we're going to do what's right for somebody in any situation. Well, I'm excited about this one because this book will be another book that our licensees will be able to basically have as many copies as they wish. They're $4 a copy. That's our printing cost, folks. It's $24.95 out there on the on the interwebs, on Amazon. And yes, I've got somebody typing here. Can I ask a question? Absolutely. We are wide open to the questions that you can type right in that box, and we'll be able to address those. Let me just mention here before we get too far into this that we do have another webinar next week on why people fail when starting their own business. Yeah, specifically, we're going to get into that. So if you want to attend that, let me do this. I'm going to copy that link right now and put it in the chat box. Now, this is not the question box, but the chat box. So look in there. You should see that link right about now that you can go and register for next week's webinar. Even if you don't know if you can make it, just go ahead and register so that you can snatch a place, a seat, and then we'll send you a link with the recording to it afterwards. Okay, Dr. Vicky, I'm sorry I cut you off there, but I can put you right back on there.
All right. So anyway, I hope that you got the picture that doctors really do need something extra. When I got out of residency, probably 80% of doctors went into private practice. And then there was managed care, which is neither managed nor good care. And that's really when the business of medicine raised its ugly head. And there were a lot of doctors who went out on disability. In fact, so many doctors went out on disability that a lot of disability companies went out of business. And those who decided to stay in practice sold their practices to hospitals and clinics. And a lot of them wound up very unhappy because for a lone wolf like me, I didn't work this hard to be somebody else's employee and telling me when and where I needed to be. And some of those people were so unhappy that they wound up buying their practices back to retain their autonomy. And I think that, Patrick and I are both really committed to helping doctors thrive in private practice. We think it's important that there are doctors in private practice. And taking away the business problems really does give doctors an extra chance to do what they love to do and do well financially also.
I'm sorry, and they what?
And do well financially also.
Yes, they want to do, just like everybody, they want to do what they enjoy doing, but they also want to make a good living at it, and they can even make more money. One of the things I'd like to show here, let's see if I've got this queued up here. Yeah, this is a revenue report. Now, we teach folks to do what's called a practice analysis. Usually you do this with the office manager or the doctor themselves, and you get information about them, about their practice that you plug into a spreadsheet. Now, this is not the finalized report, but this is a good one for us on this webinar to see why a doctor would maybe want to move the billing from in-house billing to outsourced billing. You can see the difference in cost to the doctor. You're only going to charge the doctor a percentage of the money that's billed. We've got it at 6% here, but people bill at 5, 6, 7, 8% sometimes. But anyway, so in this example, the doctor would only be paying $31,000 to outsource their billing completely to you. And if they're doing it in-house, of course, then they've got people involved in it. They've got all these expenses that are kind of hidden expenses they don't think about. And when you add all those up, you're really spending a whole lot more to do it in-house than you would if you just outsourced it. Now, Dr. Vicki, I don't think you ever did it in-house for a time yourself, did you? Other than finding out that that person was stealing from you. So you might not have been able to compare the costs there.
Well, Patrick, it was perfectly obvious to me that the cost was more than financial. I mean, the cost of not having it done right is huge. The cost of the worry is huge.
Yeah.
And, just like I would never have considered doing my own taxes, because it's too complicated. The potential consequences are too great. I just knew how important this was, and I just wasn't gonna trust it to somebody who just did it a couple hours a week. I wanted the experts doing my billing.
Yeah, Dr. Vicki, I put your little illustration here on the page on the webinar, just so that you can kind of explain this. Can you kind of explain what people are looking at here? Because I think it's a perfect example of all the different things that doctors have to be worried about.
Right. So earlier I had mentioned that only half of doctors are on track to retire. So even doctors who make very, very attractive incomes have a hard time translating that income into wealth. And I think about wealth is the freedom to do what you want to do when you want to do it once your paycheck ends. And your level of wealth is really correlated to the amount of time that you can go without, needing to work for active income anymore. So it's hard for doctors. There are a lot of things that stand in their way. Taxes are our biggest lifetime expense, and with the new tax law, doctors are getting killed. Professionals like doctors and lawyers are the people who are not winning, so they need some help with that. A lot of them are dealing with medical school debt. There is theft and fraud, and this is absolutely huge. This theft and fraud, this keeps doctors up at night. And just being able to tell them, doctor, don't you think it's a good idea for a different person to do the billing than open the envelopes with the insurance check? Doctors are really worried about lawsuits also. Doctors are required to have medical malpractice insurance, but it's not just patients who sue them. If a doctor has a Christmas party and somebody trips in their house, they're probably gonna sue. I'm really concerned about what happens when Me Too hits doctors in a very profound way, because unfortunately there is a whole lot of inappropriate sexual behavior. So doctors can lose a lot of money in lawsuits. A lot of them are married to people who decide that since they can't be with their husband and wife, they're just going to go spend the money. And they can spend their way into a lot of problems. There are many doctors who were involved with the sandwich generation. They're taking care of kids and aging parents. And with the epidemic of Alzheimer's, this can be very, very expensive. Everyone's worried about inflation. Are their investments keeping up with inflation? They are dealing with rising costs and falling fee and all sorts of revenue leaks. And Patrick's wonderful book about cash flow talks about these things and talks about how doctors can plug cash leaks. And the fascinating thing to me is how few doctors are even aware that there are leaks. If you ask a doctor, like, what are your monthly expenses? Oftentimes they're off by an order of magnitude. No, it doesn't cost, they're not spending $10,000 a month in their household. They're spending $30,000 a month in their household. There are doctors who suffer from disability and other health issues that get in the way of their ability to practice. And believe it or not, even though doctors do depend on their income, there are actually doctors who go without this kind of insurance. Now, if you play the odds, chances are pretty good that you're going to get through life without being sued or without being disabled. But boy, if you are, that can be financial disaster. So doctors have to navigate all of these things. And what ABS licensees can do is just help navigate around very specific obstacles to wealth. So you can help doctors get to where they want to go faster and more effectively.
You know, I'm going to put a couple of other slides up here as we're talking, Dr. Vicki, just so we kind of make sure we get all this in for people who need to run on a webinar like this. Folks, we have a money back guarantee when you come to our live training workshop here in Dallas. If for any reason you don't think this business is right for you, just simply tell any of my staff members and they'll arrange for you to receive a full refund of your license fee. Now, how do we do that? Well, we do that because nobody asked for their money back. Now, I say that, and yet there has been a handful of people over the years that have asked for a refund for various personal reasons. So, but for the people that come through our class, most people think this is the greatest thing since sliced bread, and they even want to give us more money, which we're open to, of course. Well, I'm just going to let you go today. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you being on here and sharing this with people who are not even our licensees yet, but hopefully some of them will be, and they'll be able to partner with you on that book as well.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for the invitation to join you, Patrick. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.